Am I the jerk for allowing my spouse to join the guys in my family when the women are cooking? My wife and I have been married for 6 months and together for 7 years. My wife is not close to her family, and I had a pretty decent relationship with mine. When she graduated a year ago and we were ready to settle down, she wanted us to be near my family. They had met and things were okay, so it seemed fine. One thing I should mention is my family is more traditional. The women do the cooking during family time, while the men do their own thing like playing outside or watching a game. My brothers and I know how to cook because my dad, who married into the family with traditional views, was not raised that way and taught us how to cook. I am pretty good, but not as skilled as someone who learned more and earlier. The traditional views were always strange to me and not something I believed in. I was upfront with my wife about this when we were dating. My wife is an amazing cook. I will sing her praises every chance I get. She makes amazing food. She was super popular with her roommates, and later our roommates in college when she agreed to take on cooking duty. We both cook at home, but I love every night she cooks. The women in my family are jealous of this. Ever since we moved closer, she was expected to join them in the kitchen. Her cooking received compliments from the family. The men did not always realize it was her and would say they loved the changes made to a dish. As a result, the female members of my family were being mean to my wife. They made comments about her not doing enough and being lazy, but then tried to take over. My wife really wanted to be close to them, so she tried hard. I hated seeing this, and my dad could not get through to my mom. So I told my wife she should step out of the kitchen and join us guys. She was hesitant but had fun the first time, and she fit right in. This angered the women in the family, who told me I should be insisting she join them as she is supposed to. They said I should not allow her to skip cooking duty. I told them I encouraged her to stay with us since they were so unfair to her. I told them we could always skip seeing them if that would make them happier. My wife feels bad. My dad joined me in telling her that the women are just being too hard on her and she does not deserve to be treated that way. We talked about not attending, and I enjoy being with the family less, but she hopes it will get better. My mom confronted me alone and again told me I was wrong to allow this. I told my mom I love my wife and do not want her mistreated and excluded by my family. She said I am not doing any favors by hiding her from them. I told her they could try being nicer. She said I am making this a bigger deal than it needs to be. Am I the asshole? You did nothing to deserve criticism. It's great that you're helping your wife feel comfortable in these situations and standing up to the outdated nonsense. Good on you for not falling for their attempts to treat her badly and for supporting her alongside your dad. Amazing how some people will go to great lengths to avoid being decent, but you're doing the right thing. Am I the jerk for yelling at my parents for turning my siblings' old room into a guest room? I am a 16-year-old female, and my 2 siblings, an 18-year-old female and a 21-year-old male, live with my parents, a 47-year-old female and a 45-year-old male, in a 3-bedroom, 1-story house. My entire life, I've shared a room with my older sister while my older brother has had his own room. Recently, my brother decided to move in with some friends because he wants to branch off from our parents' house rules and move closer to his college. Both my sister and I were excited because we hate sharing a room. Our room is about the size of a large closet. We have bunk beds and share a wardrobe and hanger rack for all of our clothes. Even with that being about it, we have practically no floor space. The only room we have for personal stuff is a shelf each, which my dad installed after he decided he didn't want them in the master bedroom. I wouldn't mind it as much if the little privacy I had in my room wasn't constantly taken over by my sister. My sister has the top bunk. I don't mind having the bottom, but it means that she is constantly in my space. It may seem silly, but my mattress space is the only area I have control over in our entire house, and I definitely get protective over it because of that. My sister has always been the antagonistic type and likes to get into my space when she's bored because she thinks it's funny. She sits on my bed, takes my phone and looks through it, and pokes or grabs me and pulls me off the bed. I hate it. A few days after my brother left, I saw my parents looking for furniture and talking about going to IKEA for the room. I asked if my sister and I could come so we could have a minor input on the furniture. My parents told me that we couldn't because my mother already had a vision for the guest room. I asked if they really planned to make the room a guest room, and they got upset, telling me I was ungrateful for feeling entitled to a room in their house. They said they could do what they wanted with their property without my judgment. I was fed up and a bit shocked as my parents, although strict, have always seemed to try to be fair. I screamed at them about how they can't really expect their 2 teenage daughters to live in a glorified closet until they move out for a guest room and that we just wanted privacy. They got angry at me and grounded me for being ungrateful and told me just because I was their child, it didn't mean I could guilt trip them into giving me the room when the one I already have is enough. My sister is mad at me because I ruined our chances of getting our own rooms. I wasn't trying to guilt trip them, but I feel like we need space, and making a guest room is awful when we're stuck in one. Now, I can't leave our room unless it's for school or other necessary things until I learn to appreciate what I have and stop being a brat. I feel bad that I screamed at them and I'm starting to doubt that I'm in the right, so I'm looking for someone else's perspective on this. So am I the asshole for screaming at my parents? Nothing you have done here makes me think you are the jerk. It's totally unreasonable to force two teenagers to share a small space with no window while keeping another room as a guest room. Your brother had a normal-sized bedroom with proper amenities, and now they're turning the extra room into a guest space? This sounds like plain and simple child abuse. Forcing two teens to live in a storage cabinet and calling it a room is absurd. Am I the jerk for telling my sibling to go away and keep their opinions to themselves? My older sister Izzy, who is 31 years old, and I, who am 27 years old, have very different views when it comes to relationships. Izzy believes in the 4-year rule, where if you are with a man for 4 years and he has not proposed, he never will. She considers such men not serious about the relationship and views them as walking red flags. Izzy broke up with her high school sweetheart at 21 years old because he did not propose after 5 years together, although she did talk about giving him an extra year since they were both in college. That was the only reason for their breakup. She said she would always love him and wished they had worked out. She broke up with her next partner after 3.5 years because he showed no signs of wanting to get married. She ended another relationship a few months ago because the man told her that the concept of a timeline for marriage and kids was nonsensical unless one is rushing. Izzy talks about this non-stop. She advises people to break up with their partners if they have not proposed, especially straight women and gay men she knows. She truly believes a relationship is at its end after 4 years without a proposal. However, I have told her that I do not share her belief. I have committed the great sin of having 2 children with my long-term partner and boyfriend of 12 years. We are not engaged, but we do live together and conduct our lives as if we are married in many ways. Neither of us is in a great hurry to get married. I do not feel the need to be married, honestly. We are happy. However, Izzy always calls it nonsense and told me I cannot be happy with a man who will impregnate me but not give me his last name. I told her I do not want his last name and suggested that perhaps he might want mine someday. It got worse when we announced I was expecting again. When our second child was born a month ago, she could not stop making remarks and questioning my boyfriend about why he had not proposed, why he was using me, and how many baby mamas he really had. He fired back that our relationship is more stable and happy than hers were because of her rigid rules about engagement and marriage. I told her to leave for insulting my boyfriend. A few days ago, I was picking something up from my dad's place, and Izzy was there. She accused me of being dumb and naive, and of ruining my life by accepting a relationship that he clearly does not want. She reiterated why her 4-year rule makes sense, and I lost it. I told her to keep her opinions to herself because I do not want to hear them all the time. Izzy responded that I did not need to be rude and should be more open to what she was saying because she was only trying to help and support me as a sister should. She then called me an ungrateful person who does not appreciate love and support. Am I the asshole? Sounds like Izzy needs some serious introspection if she thinks she can dictate how others live their lives. It's hypocritical for her to call OP ungrateful while not respecting OP's relationship choices. Everyone has their own way of navigating life and relationships, and it's not fair to impose arbitrary rules like a 4-year dating limit. That kind of behavior is more about control and less about support. Am I the jerk for telling my mother-in-law she can leave my house if she doesn't stop policing how I talk about my stepson? I am a 31-year-old female married to Jake, a 33-year-old male, who has a son, Devin, a 10-year-old male, with his ex Christy, a 34-year-old female. Jake and Christy broke up when Devin was a baby. They have shared custody 50-50 since. Christy remarried when Devin was 2. Jake and I met when Devin was 2 as well. I love Devin. Our relationship is good, but I am not his mother, and he is not my son. When Jake and I got engaged, he referred to Devin as our kid. My mother-in-law got so annoyed and said I am not his mother and never will be, so Devin is therefore not my kid. I told her that was true. I'm just a bonus in his life, and he was going to be my stepson. At that point, he wasn't yet my stepson. She told me I should make sure I don't forget my place in his life. Jake told my mother-in-law that she had no right to talk to me that way. It wasn't even me who claimed Devin was my kid. It was him claiming he was ours. Another time after Jake and I were married, I called Devin my stepson. My mother-in-law only heard the son part and told me yet again that Devin has a mother and I'm not her. I told her I said stepson. She was like, "Oh good, make sure you remember that." Devin and I had some trouble for a while. Christy was encouraging him not to be nice to me as he was to his stepfather. So Devin had a period where he was disrespectful and said we were not stepmother and stepson. We did therapy and it helped. We went back to stepmother and stepson. He made it clear he didn't want me to call him my son. I respect that. I told him I'd always respect those boundaries for him, but to please let me know if anything changes so I can make any needed changes and keep us strong. My mother-in-law randomly asked sometime after this if I was back to claiming Devin as mine. Jake told her to stop. He told her she knew I wasn't doing that and she needed to let it go. We spent some time away from her. She apologized, mostly because my father-in-law wasn't interfering like that and saw his grandson and son still. Jake and I have a son together now. My mother-in-law has flipped a switch because Jake and I have our own son together. She has decided I'm a monster for calling Devin my stepson still. She's now policing me, staying stepson instead of son. It doesn't come up that often, but it comes up often enough for her to be bothered by it. If I say I'm here to pick up my stepson instead of son, or say this is my stepson Devin, she gets upset. Jake told her to knock it off, reminding her of what happened before with her policing me like this. My mother-in-law dropped by the house to see the baby while my husband was at work. She brought it up to me again. She said that now Devin has a brother, we need to stop the step crap, and I should be calling both boys my sons. I told her to drop the topic. I did not want this to be a fight again. She ignored me and told me I need to do better. I told her she needs to leave my house if she can't stop policing how I speak, that I would not allow it. She hadn't expected me to follow through. She also didn't expect Jake to be on my side. She said I was rude and refused to discuss it like an adult. Am I the asshole? In my opinion, you have done nothing wrong here. It sounds like mother-in-law doesn't like you and wants to pick a fight no matter what you do. It's too bad other adults can't put aside their pettiness and think of the kids. Jake should give her a specific boundary, like being excluded from seeing her grandbaby for a year the next time she mentions it, and then enforce it. Am I the jerk for telling my sibling that individuals did express concerns about her son and stepson before she got married and she didn't listen? My sister has been married for 5 years. She has a 17-year-old son and a 17-year-old stepson in her home. The boys knew each other since kindergarten and they never got along. I remember my sister telling the rest of the family that she was called in and asked if she'd object to her son and the other child being buddied for a few weeks so they could work out their issues. My sister said that was fine. They tried for 7 weeks or something like that. They were seat pals, each other's helper, and were given small jobs to do together to build a better dynamic. It failed. The whole time they were next to each other, it was hell in the class. This dynamic did not let up. The two of them do not like each other. I personally believe they truly hate each other. Then my sister and her husband started a relationship. Prior to them moving in together and also prior to the wedding, many of us spoke to my sister about what a bad idea it seemed to be because the boys were not capable of getting along. She told us they'd have to once they were family and it would do them some good. I asked her if she really believed that and if she really wanted to live in a house where two members did not want to see each other ever. She told me she loved her husband, then fiancé, too much to end things or hold off on marriage. She also told me she was going to convince her son to give her stepson a chance to be a friend if nothing else. She thought that the kids clashed in personality but had some shared interests, so they could work it out. She didn't like it when our dad took her aside before the wedding and warned her it would end badly because of the boys. My sister and her husband have a son together now. He is also caught in the middle of both of his half-brothers hating each other. We all witnessed just how much these two do not want to be near each other. We witnessed fights, glares, and all kinds of things. My sister's stepson lost his temper with our great-aunt for calling them brothers. There was an incident a couple of weeks ago. My nephew lost a friend. The friend had been sick for a while and sadly passed away just before his 17th birthday. My sister and her husband wanted all 4 of them to attend the funeral, with their son going to our parents. Her stepson didn't want to go. He said he didn't want to support my nephew and he didn't care. He thought it was funny how upset my nephew was and said he hated the deceased child too. While at the funeral, my sister and her husband were sympathizing with the boys' parents and expressed that both nephew and stepson had said kind things about their son. The parents told my sister and her husband there was no way the stepson said kind things about their son and he shouldn't have been there. My sister said it was humiliating to realize other people were so aware of the bad blood. She then said we never warned her. I corrected her and said we did and she didn't listen. She told me we didn't try hard enough and how dare I say we did enough. Am I the asshole? You did nothing to deserve criticism. Did your sister truly believe that no one outside of the family knew? It sounds like she and her husband were warned multiple times that the boys wouldn't get along, but she chose to ignore it. Now she's trying to avoid accountability for the mess she's created. Am I the jerk for vetoing putting an offer on my spouse's dream house? My wife, who is 34 years old, and I, who am 38 years old, are shopping for our first house. We both put together lists of needs, wants, and deal breakers for our desired home. We both had similar lists in terms of needs and wants. We want multiple bedrooms and good schools for when we have children. We want a fenced-in yard for our dog. We do not want any major renovations needed. My only real deal breaker is that I told her I would refuse to even put an offer in on a house that has a homeowners association. Okay. My parents lived in an AHOA when I was a teenager, and I saw the amount of issues they had to go through all the time. There is no way I want to spend a huge amount of money and have to deal with that kind of thing for who knows how many years. The house could check every single box in our need and want list, and I would still refuse to even try and buy it. Our search has not been an easy one. We have been priced out of many areas that we were hoping to live in. The houses that are more within our budget are not exactly what we're looking for. We've toured dozens of houses. We have had offers rejected. Sellers have tried to get us into bidding wars. We've argued, disagreed, and fought. It has been a difficult process. Last week, our realtor sent us a home that was just hitting the market. She was excited because she thought it was exactly what we are looking for. My wife fell in love with the pictures and wanted to set up a tour. As I was looking at the listing, I saw it has an OA. I told my wife that I do not even want to go look at it since I do not want to put an offer in. She decided to set up a tour with the realtor without me. She viewed the home without telling me about it, then came home and was all excited to submit an offer. She spent an entire evening trying to convince me that it is her dream house and that we need to submit an offer before it is too late. She said there is no harm in submitting an offer just to see what the sellers say. I told her that she knows an HOA is my #1 deal breaker and that I find it pretty upsetting that she would go behind my back and do this on her own and then try and convince me to compromise my stance. She tried to downplay how much of an impact an OA would have on our lives and told me that a little inconvenience from an HOA won't offset how much we enjoy our home. But she has never lived in an HOA. She has not seen firsthand how problematic they can be and how stressful it can be for a homeowner. I reminded her that when we started looking, we both agreed that this had to be a 2-yes decision. This means that if one of us vetoed a house for any reason, we would not pursue it. She knows that an HOA is my #1 veto reason. She is now very angry at me for vetoing her dream house. She is telling me we will never find a house that checks so many of her wants and needs, and that I should just let go of the HOA issue and submit an offer. I told her she is letting her frustration with the process cloud her judgment and she is taking it out on me. It's totally okay to have deal breakers when house hunting. It should always be a 2-yes decision. It sounds like she's just frustrated and in good enough territory, rushing the process and trying to convince herself it's her dream house. A deeper conversation about what's really going on and reminding her that you're looking for a dream house for both of you might help. Thanks for watching. When you subscribe, make sure to hit the bell to turn on notifications so you never miss a video. To finish listening to all the stories, check out the playlist in the description.